I've, for whatever reason, been thinking biblically recently
Okay.
about this,
Lay it on me.
and some aspects more casually that I don't have elaborate thoughts on. But the idea of, removing the plank from your own eye before you remove the speck from somebody else's eye. That's it.
Gotcha. Yeah.
You're familiar with that?
Yeah.
That's a New Testament thing.
Okay.
As well as...
Do you want to say that again you have Catholic school background. I have some church background. Not a ton, but I was able to process that pretty quickly. I think I've heard someone say something similar, but...
This phrase speaks for itself pretty well.
Yeah.
The idea being that you fix your own faults before you fix the faults of others.
Right. And you're saying the plank and the speck is like, if you're noticing the tiny little thing that's wrong with someone else, then maybe you need to do some self-reflection and realize the massive thing that could potentially be wrong with you, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Also, I think it's a lot easier to remove a plank than it is a speck. And it's a lot easier to do surgery on yourself than hold somebody down and try and, get some dust out of their eye.
I mean, this is kind of freaking me out to think about it so much in this physical way. But that's a fun point.
But I think you'd be really hard pressed, even the person most loyal to the concept of a police institution, to suggest that the blame here exists on people of color and not the system. Like you would really have to bend over backwards in order to preserve something that's irrational.
Although there are definitely people that are doing that and
Yes,
thinking
but I don't.
that way,
But that's always going to exist.
yeah,
And so you can't worry about that percentage of people.
yeah, that's true.
So there's that. And I also think about another New Testament thing, which was Jesus and the moneylenders. If you're familiar with that.
Oh yeah, Zacchaeus.
Zacchaeus. I'm not
There
sure.
was a song we used to sing about the tax collector that went up into the tree.
I don't know.
Okay.
This is not the story I'm referring to.
Okay, tell me the story you're referring to.
Again, this is meant to be short, but the idea that anger was within Jesus's tool bag. It is the instance in the Bible where anger was expressed by Jesus, and that's going to the temple and seeing the moneylenders in front of the temple and flipping over the tables and basically engaging in a riotous act.
Wow.
In order to demonstrate that it was unethical to lend money to people with interest. So the idea that there is a place for righteous anger. So that's New Testament. And then the one that I thought about most recently that I did a lot more thinking about was the Old Testament, which is Ecclesiastes 3, which is the section "To Every Time There Is a Season."
Oh, yeah.
Which was turned into a song by Pete Seeger, Turn, 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 which was then done by the Byrds.
Okay.
And has the distinction of being the number one song with the oldest lyrics.
Oh, interesting.
It's written in 10,000? It's written in 1000 BC by King Solomon. And that is, a time to rip and a time to repair and, et cetera, et cetera. And, of course, a time to love and a time to hate, which is something that I've been thinking about recently. It actually struck me as very Buddhist in a way, or what our contemporary understanding of Buddhism is. Okay. And how I think of the Old Testament, and I think the general idea of it is kind of like a vengeful thing, and it's almost like a historical telling of the Jewish history. And then there's kind of laws of behavior, like the Ten Commandments, and then all of the, in the Torah, the first 5 books of the Old Testament, the idea of how to prepare, food and how cleaning and things like that. And this was a thing that actually was more aware than even the New Testament in some ways when I think about it, because it permits the concept of hate. And that allowed me to think a little bit more about what I'm seeing on the internet, in my social media bubbles, and where, yeah, I guess social media bubbles. Reddit doesn't count as news, but like the idea of that space,
Yeah.
where people are saying, I hate the police and
Right.
everybody is bad. There is no exceptions here. And I can't seem to bring myself to that space emotionally. I can feel other things. I can feel anger. I can feel sorrow. I can feel shame in a very complex way that I've been thinking about. But I haven't been able to feel hate. I don't really want to feel hate, and that might be part of it. It might be part of privileged upbringing. I also, when I think about some of my earliest memories, though, I also just recall feelings of empathy in a way that I feel like would predate imprinting of privilege. Or, where like I think about like going to sporting events and, clearly having a team that I'm supposed to be rooting for.
Right.
And then feeling really bad for the team that's down.
Okay.
And then the team getting up, that was the team that's down, and instantly feeling regret and feeling bad for the other team.
Oh.
And just,
Yeah.
not having the very fundamental concept of sports to being like, no, it's okay. Like you can hate that one team because like this is a safe space to just like have these feelings,
Right.
And so I guess where I'm thinking about this is I don't have that interest or capacity, as far as I can tell, to achieve that level of hate for whatever reason. But I can respect that there are people that are having that feeling, and in this very particular time, this set of circumstances, that is propelling. That is a thing that gets people to notice and gets change to happen. And that can be a type of person, and then there can be other people having other feelings, but in the direction of change.
Right. I mean, I think that series of verses, that Ecclesiastes 3, I don't think that the time refers to the way that we think of time as an all-encompassing thing that everyone is in at the same time. So I don't think that necessarily, like, when we think about, if we think about this as being a time for hate, other people could be having a time for love. There's also a time to live, a time to die. So I think that understanding would have to be applied to all the other time for this, time for that.
Well, I would stop you in the respect that you keep actually switching between 4 and 2, and that was something that I made note of when I was reading it. It's not a time 4, it's a time 2.
2.
And for me, that feels a lot more like internalized, not like the ambient surroundings of the world. That's what I think of when I think of 4.
Yeah.
When I think of 2, I think of that is something that exists within you.
I'm glad you clarified that, because I think that's the point I was trying to make, and I was not using the right words. I've been thinking this whole time, we're seeing a lot of, and again, in the social media bubbles, I've been seeing a lot of people focusing on telling people off for being angry or for being hateful. And, the media is kind of loving it because it's a story every day, and it's gets people more riled up than just showing the peaceful protests, to show the bits that are riotous and whatnot. And as soon as I saw someone reacting like that, I immediately felt off, like why are you jumping to judge this? Why are you so outraged that there are people that have been oppressed for a really long time that are angry and are showing their anger? Like, why are people getting so angry about this and condemning it? And I not that I necessarily condone violence, but I certainly don't think it's up to me to condemn it. And I was actually trying to think about it from a biblical standpoint too, and realizing that there's this, we're not supposed to judge, but then getting really tripped up on, well, if I'm not supposed to judge how people are expressing their anger, and if I share that, which I think is correct, I think, unless someone's getting murdered or if people are physically getting hurt, like, I get it. I get the expression of anger, of course. But if I say that, then am I a hypocrite for being judgmental of how the police are acting? And I actually heard something today that referenced this in the Bible. I think it was a Corinthians thing, talking about how when we see sin, there's no judgment needed. Mm-hmm. And so the murder and the physical violence that's happening from the police to the citizens just falls into that category of sin. Uh-huh. And we know that that's wrong. Whereas being angry doesn't fall into that category. So there was something innate in me that picked up on that. Mm-hmm. But I was happy to start to understand it from a more intellectual side of things too.